Ladies and gentlemen, we have something unusually special on the bench today. YouTube first, a watch never before seen on video, and the most suburban English watch ever made. I won't tell you what it is yet. There's going to be a dramatic build-up. Here we go. Those of us with sharp eyes and even sharper minds may have noticed another watch brand pass by during our recent video on J.W. Benson. Just here on this huge sign dominating Ludgate Hill. Bravingtons, similar to J.W. Benson, were a watchmaker and jeweller that supplied watches to the stolid English middle class. So today we are taking a look at Bravingtons, their history, and the least exciting watch in the history of horology. No need to buckle up, this is not going to be a bumpy ride. When the marketing department at Bravingtons was given the mission to name a range of waterproof watches, they took a look at the British traditions of exploration, its unsurpassed maritime history, Clive of India, Shakespeare, the Royal Marine Commandos, Shackleton, Churchill, are full English. They must have pictured Richard the Lionheart, Corporal Jones at the Battle of Omdurman. I see no ships, rauques, drift, and all cock and brown, who dares wins, Waterloo and God save the Queen. Then they looked at the competition, explorers, pole routers, 50 fathoms and seamasters, the Oyster, Perpetual and the Speedmaster. They looked at all of that and came up with the name Wetrista, a watch name to evoke surviving a slightly damp forearm. What were they thinking? Did Magna Carta die in vain? This particular Wetrista isn't running. I'm sure we'll be able to do something about that. Shall we proceed? Let's take a look around this movement. First thing to note is that this movement uses the more modern shallow screw heads with wide slots. So first job is to adjust the screwdrivers to fit. Second thing I'm seeing is, although the movement is in overall good condition, there is grease everywhere. Not huge amounts, but it is all over the place. We find a standard 1802 movement, which befits the moist-handed Wetrista. If movements were food, the ST 1802 would be a cheese sandwich, factory white bread, mild cheddar, no pickle. There's nothing actually wrong with it, but you know. As ever, our wheel off first. Note that there's no dial washer. We'll plonk a replacement on when we put it back together. Now we'll remove the balance wheel, but first dress the screwdrivers for this movement. It just takes a minute, and the benefit of correctly fitting screwdrivers cannot be overstated. That feels good and secure in the slot. Let's get on with it. We'll remove the pallet fork too. I've already let the power down, but with movements this wash with grease, there's often some residual power left. This movement has a retaining plate for the cannon pinion, as it sits loosely on its pivot. In this watch, the minute wheel drives the cannon pinion. Now we'll remove the setting lever spring. The residual power is still slowly leaving the watch. Our old adversary, the yoke spring's time has come. Another victory for the watchmaker's special stick. We salute you. Winding pinion, the clutch, intermediate wheel, and now this fella here. It's a friction fit pinion on the second wheel, doing some of the duties usually carried out by the cannon pinion. Reverse threaded crown wheel screw is off along with the crown wheel. Click spring screw. terribly dirty movement, as filthy as the zookeeper's turn up. We need to keep the tweezers clean to stop parts sticking to them. That's much better. Click gone, now onto the ratchet wheel. The click spring, interesting that this is one of the simplest parts in any watch, yet is a part with the most varied designs. Barrel bridge has reached the top of the list. In this case, it's just supporting one pivot, the mainspring barrel, and that's it. And straight onto the train of wheels bridge. Fourth wheel describes the escape wheel and has a long pivot that goes right through the movement, holding the second hand. Now the second wheel, this wheel's pivot, also goes through the movement. The friction-fitted pinion we saw on the motion works side sits on this wheel. Third wheel, escape wheel, and finally the mainspring barrel. According to Reddit, 18,000 people a year are hospitalized after accidents with watch mainsprings. That figure sounds low to me. The mainspring looks reusable. It will be going back in. It's always a good idea to give parts a pre-clean before putting them in the baskets for the cleaning machine. Balance wheel back on, then we'll remove the balance wheel jewels and clean them separately. Everything else goes into the cleaning machine. And here it all is clean and ready to go. But before we start reassembly, we'll get a small drop of oil on the balance wheel cap jewels and refit them. Nice circle of oil under the cap jewel. That's exactly what we're looking for. Normally now we'd be pushing ahead with the assembly, but I have a confession to make. During disassembly, I found an issue with the pallet fork that was stopping the watch running. We're going to put just the escape wheel and pallet fork so we can take a look at the issue. The pallet fork is sitting too low in relation to the escape wheel, so low in fact that its tail is rubbing on the main plate, stopping the watch. And the amount of end shake is indicating that the bottom jewel is too low, so we should adjust that. Using the Haraya tool, we'll bring the pusher down until it is firmly holding the jewel. There's a lot of end shake, so we're going to move it a massive 0.05 of a millimeter. For those not down with the metric system, that's around a 1/12 to 17th of an eighth of an inch. Making the adjustment now. Much better. The pallet fork is free of the main plate and it aligns with the escape wheel too. We also checked the pallet horn's height in relation to the balance impulse. Jewel was correct. Quick re-clean of the main plate and we really can get on with reassembly. Does everybody remember which part goes first? Yes, well done. It's the setting lever. I can't overstate how easy it is to get this in now and how much of a pain it can be if you leave it until the end. While we are refitting the train of wheels, let's take a look at what Bravingtons had to say about the Wetrista. They were men's watches for a manly life. Count me in. Waterproof, shockproof, unbreakable glass, and non-magnetic. An amazing horological wonder from a time before laws about truthfulness and advertising ruined everything. But wait, there's more. In this post-war period, the good people at Bravingtons recognized that there were some ladies living manly lives too. And Bravingtons was willing to sell them watches like they did to gentlemen. How are we doing on the train of wheels? Just the fourth to go back in. We'll put a sniff of 90-10 onto the pivot first. Gentle touches to ask the wheels to go to the correct position, and then we can put the train of wheels bridge into place. As is often the case, all the pivots drop into position, apart from the escape wheel. A little finagling, and there we go. We'll hold the bridge in place with the watchmaker's special stick while we get the screw in. Barrel bridge next, but first a dot of D5 on the barrel arbor. We'll lubricate this jewel now, as it is about to get covered by the crown wheel. More D5 in the usual places. It's at times such as these that I recall the words of my great-grandfather. "Boy," he would shout, "when I was your age, we always asked people to like and subscribe. He was a man ahead of his time." Crown wheel and a little more lubrication where the crown wheel screw creates a bearing surface. And now the screw itself, lefty-tighty, remember? Click spring next. This definitely has potential to mount an escape attempt, so more duty for the watchmaker's special stick. Click and click screw can be plopped into their place, and then we shall move onto the ratchet wheel. onto the pallet fork, the newly positioned jewel looked like it was okay, but we won't know for sure until we test the movement. With the pallet fork locking the train of wheels, we can put some power into the mainspring. Let's see how the balance does. That's not hanging around, running like an ostrich chasing a startled wallaby on a pogo stick. Excellent. I'm going to leave that running for 20 minutes while I take a well-earned tea and hot buttered crumpet break. Balance is out again. We're placing the pallet jewel grease where it belongs. We do this 3 times, walking the escape wheel teeth over the lubricated jewel. That's the movement side done. Clutch and winding pinion are dropped in and will grease the winding stem. Some tinkerers slather this in grease as if it's about to swim the English Channel, but that is not what's called for here. Small dots are the answer. And the same approach in the other usual places. If it slides, blue grease. If it rotates, red D5. Yoke can be installed feeling pretty smug. Put it in the right way around the first time. Yoke spring gave up without a fight, and we're onto the cannon pinion, just drop into place. Friction fit the pinion onto the pivot of the second wheel, switching to carbon steel tweezers for that job. Intermediate wheel is next out of the parts tray along with the minute wheel. Cover plate to hold the cannon pinion and minute wheels down, and then we can get onto the setting lever spring. Half install the screw before putting the tension onto the spring, then tighten fully. Back over to the movement side, the balance goes in again for the last time, and with the watch running, let us lubricate the last jewels. And while we're here, let's give this watch a new crystal. Quick now, dial and hands on. Let's get this in the case so we can see how it's running on the time graph. If you would like your watch to be serviced or repaired, including a free video showing its inner workings and the work done, check out the link to the Gentleman's Watch Services website in the description. Great amplitude and about 0 seconds a day dial up, and now the true test in vertical position. 1 second a day variance between horizontal and vertical, not bad, I'll take that. Right, that's it, as you were.